Hello everyone, welcome back to Crime Rush. I'm Inga and today we will be discussing a really heartbreaking case. The sentencing for this case took place only a few days ago, and I really wanted to tell the story because when mental illness plays such a large part in a case and in a tragedy of this nature, we are often left feeling unsure of how to place it in our minds. It's normal for us to want to blame someone or something, but in this situation, it can get kind of tricky, and this is exactly how the case of Lauren Dickason has left me feeling. This South African mom immigrated with her family to New Zealand, but once abroad, she would do the unthinkable and to her own children. Now, I have to just give a major trigger warning for this case. Please proceed with caution. We will be discussing extremely upsetting things, so please, you have been warned. Now, in order to understand this case a little bit better, we'll have to go back to the beginning somewhat. Lauren Dickason lived in Pretoria in the province of Gauteng in South Africa. Her parents are Wendy and Malcolm Fawkes, and we don't know too much about Lauren's early life, but we do know that from the age of 15, she really started to struggle with her mental health. She became depressed, she became anxious, and her parents got her the help that she needed and supported her through this. And let me tell you, Lauren was one smart cookie because she was a high achiever and went on to study medicine after school at the University of Cape Town. She completed her degree in 2004 and then went on to complete her rural health practice in Pretoria, and that's where she met Graham Dickason in 2005. Graham was an orthopedic surgeon and he clearly swept Lauren off her feet because just a little over a year later, they got married in 2006 and the couple had high hopes of starting a family. But unfortunately, this wouldn't come easy for them. Lauren had to have IVF done 17 times and eventually had to use donor eggs. And then finally in 2013, she fell pregnant and the couple were over the moon. Unfortunately, this excitement was short-lived because Lauren gave birth at 18 weeks, and their baby, whom they named Sarah, unfortunately didn't make it. She passed away shortly after she was born. Lauren and Graham were devastated, to say the least, and Lauren decided that she needed to take some time off of work just to heal, but she wouldn't return to work at all after this. Eventually, she decided to join her husband Graham at his practice and become his part-time surgeon assistant. But only a few months later, Lauren would discover that she was pregnant once again, and this time she would carry the baby to term. She gave birth to Liané Dickason in September of 2014, and they just loved their baby girl. But in the months and years that followed, Lauren was struggling to cope. She reached out for help and was diagnosed with a major depression order with underlying anxiety in 2015 that was linked to postpartum depression caused by the loss of Sarah. She said she experienced flashbacks of the loss of her child, sleep difficulties, crying, thoughts of ending it all, panic attacks, restlessness, detached feelings, and intrusive thoughts. And I have never experienced postpartum depression myself, but I have friends that have gone through it and they have told me that it is absolutely horrible. So I really do feel for Lauren here because she went through all of that and now she finally has her baby girl, but she can't really enjoy it because she's having such a tough time mentally. But as I mentioned, she got the help that she needed, and in no time she was healing and feeling a little bit better. But she was still experiencing some depression and anxiety like she had been since she was a teenager. Then 4 years later, Lauren would fall pregnant once again, but this time with twins. And in November of 2018, she gave birth to 2 little girls and she named them Maya and Karla. Karla, however, was born with a cleft palate, and this, even while being a doctor, she knew there were operations to fix it, left Lauren in a state of anxiety and depression. After the twins' birth, Graham employed a nanny to help Lauren with the kids. The year that followed was extremely difficult for Lauren, and eventually she reached out for help again in May of 2019 and confessed to her psychiatrist that she was having homicidal thoughts towards her children and that it was triggered when she and the nanny were struggling to get the babies to sleep. That same year, in 2019, Graham and Lauren decided that they would immigrate to New Zealand. They were set to move in August of 2020, but their plans were delayed by the pandemic and immigration issues. During this time, Lauren seemed to slip back into a deep depression, but with time, she was healing again, and she even took part in a type of wellness program that helped her to heal a bit too. In March of 2021, Lauren decided to just stop taking her prescribed antidepressants, but then she experienced a setback when the looting drama took place here in South Africa. This is when people were striking and looting in South Africa due to the imprisonment of our former president, Jacob Zuma. Google it. It was absolutely shocking and so scary. You won't believe it. Please take a moment and just see what that looked like for us in South Africa at that time. Now, during this time, Lauren decided that she didn't want the kids to go to school. She rather kept them home to keep them safe. But unfortunately, in this time while they were at home, her intrusive thoughts came back and she again had feelings where she wanted to harm her children. But this time when she confided in Graham, he reportedly got extremely upset with her and told her to just go back on her meds. And by August of 2021, she was back on her meds, but she was still experiencing anxiety and homicidal thoughts, and she lost a lot of weight. Now, within this time, Lauren searched the internet for different methods on how to overdose her children. She experienced thoughts of using cable ties to end her children after seeing Graham play with the girls in the garage with cable ties. But due to the pending immigration, she didn't want to say anything about how she felt because she felt like it would just hinder the whole process. And only 2 weeks later, Graham would get his visa approved and they were set to immigrate to New Zealand. The Dickason family arrived in Timaru, New Zealand on the 11th of September 2021. But almost immediately, Lauren regretted the move. She felt that the people were different and that the living conditions were just not suitable for them. But Lauren really wasn't trying to make the best of it. She became so fixated on the things that she didn't like there, and she even became a little bit delusional, and she became extremely depressed again. And I'm just going to give you an additional warning because we are about to dive into the darker side of today's story. And this took place only 5 days after the Dickason family arrived in Timaru, New Zealand. On the 16th of September 2021, little twins Karla and Maya, only 2 years old, attended their first day of preschool, and it was 6-year-old Liané's second day at Timaru Christian School. Lauren picked the girls up after school and took them to local botanical gardens, but one of the twins, Karla, threw a major tantrum in the car, which unsettled Lauren a little bit. And while they were at these botanical gardens, people came up to Lauren and warned her that there was a man there that was taking pictures of her children. And this just made Lauren spiral a little bit because she had moved from South Africa because of the crime. And now she just felt like New Zealand had all of these problems too, which to me sounds really dramatic, but I do realize that she was struggling mentally. That day, she also had a bit of a mental setback when New Zealand immigration asked her more on her mental health and Karla's cleft palate. And unfortunately, a bit later on, she experienced homicidal thoughts towards her children once again. Now that evening, Graham had to go to a work event and Lauren stayed home with the girls. But she reportedly said that the girls were just really wild that night. They were jumping on the couches. They weren't listening to her. And to me, it sounds like they were just being kids and they were just having a bit of unruly fun. But Lauren stated that she just couldn't deal with it that night. She was standing in the kitchen and couldn't even face making their lunches for the next day. So this is the mental space that she was reportedly in that evening. And then Lauren just snapped. She gathered the girls all into one bedroom and told them that they were going to make necklaces out of cable ties in order to trick them to put it around their necks. Once the little girls had it around their necks, she said to them that she was very sick and that she was going to pass away, and she had to do this because she didn't know who would be taking care of them when she was gone. She started with 2-year-old Karla and tightened the cable tie around her neck so that she couldn't breathe. She then moved on to her oldest, Liané, but Liané fought back. She was angry. She wanted to know, why was her mom doing this? She said, why would you do this? Because you are the best mom and I know you love us. That's just heartbreaking to me. But Lauren proceeded to do the same to Liané that she did to Karla, and then she also did the same to Maya. She then saw that all 3 kids were still breathing, so she went and got towels and blankets and placed it over their faces to end it all. Her next step was to try and self-delete, but she was unsuccessful. When Graham came home after his work event, he found his wife distraught, just saying that it's too late. He then went into the bedrooms and discovered the lifeless bodies of his little girls. He tried to confront Lauren, but she was just in a catatonic state. And, it's hard to even picture the scene. As a parent, I don't even know what I would do in that moment. I don't know how this man must have felt. And it really reminds me of the movie Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio. Let me know if you've seen that, because it really made me think of that. But this wasn't a movie. This was real life, and Graham had to deal with this. I don't know how he lived through this, but he did, and my heart just goes out to him. It's a horrible thing to walk in on. A distraught Graham went and sought help from his neighbors Karen and Brad, and they called the police. And when the police arrived at the home at around 10 p.m. that night and found the little girls deceased and Lauren was hospitalized and was in a stable condition. The next day, on the 17th of September, police interviewed Lauren for the first time, and she admitted to everything immediately. On the 18th, Lauren appeared in Timaru District Court and was later remanded to a forensic psychiatrist ward at Christchurch Hillmorton Hospital, and was later placed in a hospital psychiatric unit. She was interviewed by 5 forensic psychiatrists and psychologists for 53 hours. 3 of them believed she was severely mentally unwell and could claim a defense based on insanity. The 2 others believed she did it out of anger and out of control, not wanting to let another woman parent her children if she passed away and Graham remarried. Lauren pleaded not guilty, and her trial was scheduled for the 17th of July 2023. And this was not your typical trial. It was extremely complex because even though Lauren admitted to everything, her defense was saying that she is not guilty due to insanity or infanticide. Infanticide is a unique law in New Zealand. It allows a lesser charge for a mother who ends the life of her child within 10 years of birth due to a disturbed mental state arising from childbirth. This defense was a gamble, as it placed a heavy focus on Lauren's mental state at the time of the twins' birth. The prosecution, however, felt differently and argued a different case because they said Lauren did this out of anger, out of resentment, and out of control, and that she wasn't mentally incapable of understanding that what she was doing is wrong, because at one point, Lauren even told investigators that she started with Karla because Karla was ugly to her during that day. So the defense were claiming that she did this out of anger. It was a lengthy and complicated trial. Lauren's parents came all the way from South Africa and asked the judge for leniency. Graham, Lauren's husband, testified in court and also asked the judge for leniency. He said his wife had been a wonderful mother and that he forgave her because he knows that she struggles with her mental health. The jury ultimately sided with the prosecution, and Lauren was found guilty of murder on August 16th, 2023. And just a few days ago, on the 26th of June, she was sentenced to 18 years in prison. There are no easy answers in the Lauren Dickason case. 3 innocent lives were lost and a family has been forever shattered. This case serves as a reminder of the importance of mental health support and the devastating impact it can have when left unchecked. And this case obviously continues to spark debate. Some people feel one way, others feel another. And I had this debate with my own husband in my kitchen just last night, and he feels very differently about it than what I do. I feel that there are clear signs that this woman was mentally ill. I mean, she confessed to a psychiatrist earlier in her life that she was having homicidal thoughts towards her child. I mean, that has been documented. So the fact that this happened isn't so shocking when you look at her past and you look at what she was struggling with. And I think just everything on top of it, the move, the immigration to New Zealand, unfamiliar environment, and her struggles with depression, and her not wanting to say anything about it because she didn't want to rock the boat at home, or she didn't want to hinder the process of the immigration. I think it was all just building up. And then on that fateful day, everything was just a build up to, the immigration New Zealand asking about her mental health, about Karla's cleft palate, and then Karla throwing a tantrum, and Graham having to go out to work and leave her alone with the kids at night. Not his fault at all. And don't get me wrong, I'm not excusing what she did. I don't think she should be with the rest of society until she's really well. But I can have empathy for her, and I do think that I would say that she was mentally ill. But I mean, the jury didn't feel that way. They sided with the prosecution and they found her guilty. So she's sentenced to 18 years behind bars, which I mean is not enough for ending 3 lives. So I guess it sort of balances itself out. I would say I'm pretty happy with the verdict and also with the sentencing. But I don't know, maybe tell me how you feel about it, because this is a very complex case. I mean, how would you sentence this woman? Do you feel like she really deserves the maximum sentence for all of this after hearing her whole story and her struggle with mental health from the age of 15? I don't know. I don't. I think 18 years is sufficient, and I hope she gets the help that she needs in that 18 years, of course, before she's let back into society. I think that's about it for today's case, and I really appreciate the fact that you tuned in and watched this really heartbreaking case. And I'd love to hear your opinions, so please don't forget to leave them in the comment section. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me some suggestions or requests of cases that you would love me to cover, because that would make choosing a case so much easier. But once again, thanks for tuning in. Please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.